Hi everyone, I'm Katie from Nutritionist Resource and I look after the content as the content officer. Today I am joined by Julia Young, a registered nutritional therapist and member of Nutritionist Resource who specialises in women's health and fertility. So today we're going to be chatting about premenstrual tension, so PMT, or premenstrual syndrome, which is PMS. And this can affect anybody with the female reproductive organs, and it can affect people in a number of different ways: weight management, mood, cravings, sex drive, hair health, the list just goes on. So as many of us are now looking for more natural ways to support our health, and particularly non-invasive methods to ease our unpleasant symptoms, we're going to explore how to use nutritional therapy to support some of the more unpleasant symptoms of PMS. So, Julia, welcome. I would love it if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, thanks very much, Katie. So my name is Julia, and as you said, I'm a registered nutritional therapist. I studied at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition, based in Surrey. And my background is that I suffered from infertility or fertility issues and absent periods for many years. So I had 7 years of absent periods, which meant that we had to go through fertility treatment to have our children. But it was only until I changed my diet, my lifestyle, and introduced supplements that my periods actually returned. And that's when really I discovered the power of good nutrition and decided to go on and study it. And now that's what I do. I help women. I support women with their health, especially their hormonal health, and I support couples with their fertility as well.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So you're the perfect person to chat to us about this. Great. So I think we'll start there. So perhaps you could talk us through a quick explanation of how food could influence or exaggerate certain symptoms of PMT.
Yeah. So just to recap on the sort of the symptoms. So I'm sure anyone that's suffering from it is aware of them, but for those that don't know, it's bloating is very much a symptom, water retention or weight gain, headaches, anxiety, mood swings, skin issues, depression, having heavy or painful periods. So there's lots of different symptoms. And with PMS, these normally occur sort of 10 days before the start of the period and last up until sort of after the menstrual bleed. That's what's termed as premenstrual symptoms. But food can make PMS symptoms worse, and it can make them better depending on kind of what you're eating. So foods that can exaggerate PMT or anything that can increase inflammation in the body, and less inflammation in the body leads basically to better ovulation and producing more progesterone, which is our calming hormone. Mm-hmm. And there are also various risk factors for PMT. So things like if you're a smoker, if you drink a lot of alcohol, high intake of alcohol, high fat foods, so those are foods that are sort of heavily processed, the sort of, more convenience foods. A high sugar diet, unfortunately, can make it worse. Stress is another factor, and lacking key nutrients as well in the diet. And also red meat can be one. If we're having a lot of red meat in the diet, that can also make PMT worse.
Okay. So are there any generic helpful foods to calm specific symptoms of PMS?
Yes, so definitely, as mentioned, meat being one. So maybe reducing red meat intake could be a start for someone that's maybe having a lot of red meat every day. Following the principles of a Mediterranean diet can be helpful, which is all about having lots of different coloured fruit and vegetables, a diet which is very varied, fish, lean proteins like chicken, things like that, nuts and seeds, and lots of olive oil. So all the sort of foods that help to reduce inflammation in the body is really helpful. Lots of vegetables. I'm always talking to my clients about vegetables, so lots of leafy green vegetables, so things like broccoli, cabbage, kale, sprouts, things like that, all really helpful. They're good sources of magnesium, which is very much a calming nutrient, which can help with things of anxiety and things like that. They're also a good source of iron. Now, if we're suffering with heavy periods and losing a lot of iron through the blood, then that's obviously important to replace that. Limiting caffeine can be helpful as well, especially if you're someone that suffers from headaches around that time, then caffeine can contribute to those. fermented foods, so things like your sauerkraut, pickles, tempeh, things like that. If you like that sort of food, that can be helpful.
Very
It,
tasty.
yeah, and making sure that you've got also lots of protein in the diet. So as I said before, nuts, seeds, eggs, pulses, things like that. Also, healthy fats are important. So they help to reduce inflammation in the body and can help to reduce period pain and also help prevent mood swings. So things like your fats you get from oily fish, again, olive oil, monounsaturated fats like olive oil can be helpful. And then foods containing B vitamins, because they're important for producing energy. So again, back to your leafy vegetables, whole grains, things like your rices, your brown pastas, things like that can be very helpful. And also making sure that we're drinking plenty of water. So that's important to eliminate toxins, to help clear out old hormones. We don't want to be recirculating and building up hormones in our body. We need to be clearing them out. And it can be helpful if you're feeling tired or for bloating as well. So I'm always saying to my clients, make sure you're drinking plenty of water all the time as well. It's important.
Okay, lovely, thank you. That's a good whistle-stop tour of all the foods there. So aside from food, is there anything we should be supplementing? Because there's been in the recent years a couple of different stories, and I've actually looked at this a fair bit, about supplementing bee pollen. So I wondered if there's any science behind that, or if there are any other supplements that you would recommend to support PMT.
So firstly, I mean, my approach is always food first. So when I work with my clients, it's always about making sure that the diet's looking really good first. There's no point throwing supplements at it if it's in their diet, if they've not, they've got the food working first. It's always making sure what we can get through the food. But supplementation can be helpful. Unfortunately, I can't give specific dosages because I have to work one-to-one clients on that level, but I can let you know about some nutrients to consider. Bee pollen isn't something I'd normally recommend. I'm not entirely sure of the research behind bee pollen, and something I'm really aware of. But there are certainly a lot of others. Magnesium, for starters. I mean, a lot of our soils are now depleted of nutrients, and a lot of us are not getting enough magnesium through our diet these days anyway. If we're leading a stressful life, which I think everyone is at the moment with the pandemic we're going through, then we lose a lot of magnesium through being stressed, basically. So magnesium is a good one to replace, and it's often known as nature's tranquilizer, so it helps to calm everything down. So it's really good for anxiety and stress that may be around time of your period. It can help with fluid retention, weight gain, and it's really good for supporting if someone has menstrual migraines. It can be really helpful, especially during sort of second half of the cycle. But obviously you can get the magnesium through foods as well. I mentioned B vitamins. So again, they're really important for someone that's suffering from tiredness during their cycle. So really important for energy production, and if they're suffering from headaches as well, particularly B6. There's lots of research around B6 to help with PMS. It helps to make a compound called tryptophan, which is an amino acid, so it comes from protein, and it's important for supporting mood. So if you're having deficiency in B6, then it can increase feelings of depression and mood symptoms. And if you want to go down the food route, I mean, B6, there's found in liver and organ meat. So again, that's quite a specialist one, but also fish and seafoods. Again, your green vegetables are good sources. And then another one, a really important one, is vitamin D. A lot of us are deficient or low in vitamin D. You've probably heard about it talked quite a lot in the news recently with COVID and how it's important for supporting the immune system. But low levels are associated with increased risk of PMT. We can get small amounts from oily fish, from eggs and from mushrooms, but really the best way to get it is from the action of sunlight on the skin. So being outside, particularly in the morning when the sun might be strongest. But obviously living in the Northern Hemisphere and this time of year, we're not getting a huge amount of sun, so supplementation can definitely be useful. But with vitamin D, I always say don't test, don't guess with vitamin D. It's important to know what your levels are before you supplement, because you need to know exactly how much you're putting in. You can have too much as well, a good thing. Okay. And then another one I would say would be your omega-3 fats or your fish oils. So unless you're eating plenty of oily fish, which again a lot of people aren't, or if you're perhaps vegan or vegetarian, so you're not getting it in, then that's an important one to supplement. You can get vegan omega-3 fats as well. Calcium can be useful. I prefer to get that one through food, through dairy products, or through seeds and nuts, and eating fish with the bones in. But again, calcium is important for reducing irritability, for anxiety, for water retention. So again, symptoms people might be feeling. If you're one of those people that suffer with real cravings around that time, especially sugar cravings, and chromium can be a useful supplement to have, just to help balance that blood sugar. So yes, there's lots of nutrients that can be helpful, but as I say, it's in terms of dosages, it's important to speak to someone to get the correct amount, what's useful for you basically.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So another perhaps fad, I'm not sure, that I've heard of is seed cycling, so the rotation of certain seeds at certain times of the month. Is there any science behind that, or is it something you'd recommend, or what's your experience with it?
So it's not something that I recommend generally with my clients, and there isn't any real science behind it, to be honest. But there have been cases to say that it's helpful, potentially to reduce PMS symptoms if you've got symptoms due to a hormonal imbalance, and it's been known to help sync cycles, or if you've got low estrogen or an estrogen dominance in relation to your progesterone, or something like irregular periods, and it can be useful. And for those that don't know what it is, it's about during your first half of your cycle, which is called the follicular phase. So that's from sort of day one of your bleed up until release of time of ovulation. You consume 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, and then 1 tablespoon of ground pumpkin seeds a day. And the idea of that is to help balance your estrogen levels. And then the second half of your cycle, so that's from around ovulation right up until your period again, which is known as the luteal phase. And that's where you have 1 tablespoon of ground sesame seeds and 1 tablespoon of ground sunflower seeds. And this is to balance your progesterone levels. But as I said, there isn't really any science behind it, but we know that these seeds contain oils, vitamins and minerals and nutrients that support the body's production and release of these hormones. So that might be why seed cycling is helpful to people, just in the sheer nature of the nutrients in these seeds, rather than doing it at those particular times.
Oh, okay. And I should mention, we've chatted about a few things that we're not sure the science behind. So if you are considering changing your diet to try and support PMS, it's always best to speak to your GP or a nutrition professional, so you can do that in a healthy way and support you. So my favourite topic is coming up, and that is about sugar. So how does sugar and cravings affect our period?
So sadly, and sugar's probably what, it's really hard to cut down on, and it's what a lot of people crave when they've come run up to their period, or when they're on their period. But unfortunately, sugar increases inflammation in the body. So as I mentioned before, we want to be reducing that inflammation. And we know there's a strong association between high inflammation and premenstrual symptoms. So it suggests that a high sugar diet may make things, those symptoms worse. And sugar can really drain our energy levels, because if, for example, you're starting the day with a breakfast, which is maybe a high sugary breakfast, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a sugary cereal, but it could be something with refined carbohydrates, say pastries or something like that. You'll get this sort of big boost of energy first thing in the morning when you're having this food. So then sort of a couple of hours later, what happens, you get almost like an energy crash. So you'll get a release of insulin as you take the sugar in, and then you get this energy crash, and we can feel very tired just after a few hours of having our breakfast. And in order to get that energy back up, the natural thing is then to turn to another sort of high sugary food to bring that energy level back up. So what happens with our hormones, they're sort of going up and down, a bit like being on a roller coaster. And unbalanced hormones is no good for supporting hormone function, basically, and for PMS. So as much as we really want to probably be eating sugar, it really doesn't do us any favors, and it robs our body of nutrients, and potentially it's taking away space from where we could be putting other, really good nutrients into our diet. If we're eating lots of sugary foods, there's less room for the good stuff to get in there. And it can also alter the ratio of our sex hormones. So between the estrogen and progesterone can actually change if we've got a high sugar diet as well. So it's a hard one to give up and cut down on. It can be done with the right support, but yeah, it's unfortunately it's not that helpful. But similarly, if you can do something, if you're someone, for example, that always wants to turn to a bar of milk chocolate, when you're maybe look at a better alternative. So it could be maybe looking at some nuts and some quite dark chocolate, which is going to be a lower sugar version. So that would be more helpful for you than going for the sort of the full milk version, which has got lots of sugar. So there are simple swaps that you can do to make it that little bit easier.
So we've chatted a fair bit about food. I just wanted to talk about lifestyle alterations. So is there anything you can suggest at certain times of the month, or just in general, about how to ease your symptoms and make things a little bit easier? So even for certain symptoms like oily skin or skin breakouts, or just feeling really sluggish, is there anything you could suggest?
Yeah, so lifestyle is hugely important as well. Not everyone feels like exercising when they're, if they have premenstrual symptoms, but actually exercise can be really helpful. And obviously you need to listen to your body, and it might not be useful to go off and do a big run or something like that. But sweating helps with detoxification. So again, it's helping to get rid of any toxins in the body. So that's really important. And it does actually help to alleviate symptoms. So making sure you continue with any exercise routine is really important, actually, and just getting some movement in. And if you can get it, outside, then you're getting vitamin D as well, and it can help with sleep and all sorts of things. So exercise is definitely something to keep up. But it may be that at certain times you want to maybe switch to something more gentle like Pilates or yoga rather than a full-on cardio session if that's how you're feeling at that time. And similarly, sleep is really important. It's essential to our well-being, sleep anyway. And it's really important for hormone balance and important for appetite regulation as well. So, if we want to minimize these cravings, then it's really important that we're getting a good night's sleep, going to bed earlier than maybe we are at the moment, and getting the best quality sleep is the hours that we can get before midnight. So it's not a case of going to bed at sort of 1, 2 in the morning and having a lie-in, but actually trying to get to bed at sort of 10:30 at night or something like that can be really helpful, getting that good quality sleep in. And then another one is stress. Stress can have a real impact on our hormones as well. If we're really stressed, it can shut down certain body systems. So it's really important that we work on stress. And I think, again, as I mentioned before, I think we're all certain amount of stress for everyone at the moment. So really anything that, can help deal with that, whether that's doing some mindfulness or meditation or journaling, is quite useful for people as well. Or just, spending 10 minutes a day doing something that you really enjoy can really help with really lowering stress and just feeling calm, and that can help with everything as well.
Great. So there are just a few simple exercises or tweaks to your daily life could really make a huge difference. So that's really useful. Thank you. So just before we finish up, why would it help you if you went to see a nutritionist for PMT? How does nutritional therapy support you?
So making changes is hard, and quite often we know what we should be doing. Like the sugar thing, I don't think is news to people, but actually implementing it can be hard to do, and the how you do it can be difficult. So it's often about getting the support, and that's what we can offer. It's so much easier to make these changes when you've got accountability and you've got the support from someone. And what works for one person might not work for someone else. So, I can give all these suggestions, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Whereas if you're seeing someone one-to-one, it's about personalized nutrition, and it's about what's exactly right for them, rather than giving sort of blanket advice. So that can be really helpful. And the same with supplements. It's not just a case of taking everything that you've heard about or read about that's useful. Again, it's about tailoring it, exactly to the specific person. And supplements have a very powerful effect. So it's not about the more you take, the better the effect will be. It's very much what's right for that person. And similarly, a nutritional therapist, a registered nutritional therapist will have nutritional testing do as well, which is something that, if you didn't work with a nutritionist, you wouldn't have access to. So, for example, And that can, you can then look into what might be driving the PMS. So, for example, we have access to a test called the Dutch test, which stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. And that can look at the levels of your different sex hormones. It can look at how you're breaking them down, so how you're metabolizing your hormones and how you're clearing them, and also can look at stress levels and things like that. So it can really give you a good idea of what's happening over the month and then what nutrients that we can add in to support that. And we also have access to very comprehensive blood tests, looking at how the thyroid's functioning, for example. And we also have access to lots of nutrient testing as well, and gut testing, because if our gut isn't functioning properly, then this will impact our hormone function. So this can give a real insight into what's going on if you're suffering from this condition.
Brilliant. So it's a real personalisation, so key to each individual. That's great. So I should just mention, we haven't chatted about premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is PMDD, and is a very severe form of PMT. So if you are someone that is struggling with this form of PMT, then it's significantly affecting your life, it's certainly worth visiting your GP in the first instance, and then they can recommend who else to go and see next, and a nutritional therapist can certainly help you with that as well, but your GP is definitely your first point of call. So I think that's all we have time for today. So as I mentioned, Julia is a member of Nutritionist Resource, but I just wondered, Julia, if you could share how else people could find you as well.
Sure, yeah, so my website is www.juliayoungnutrition.com. I'm also on Instagram at juliayoungnutrition. And you can also email me, which is info@juliayoungnutrition.com, and I offer free discovery calls. So if anyone wants to chat about what's going on and wants me to talk about how I can help them, I'm happy for them to book in a discovery call with me, and you can just book that via my website.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. That was really insightful, and I hope that there's something for everyone. So thank you, Julia.
Thanks very much.